Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Medford United Methodist Church, and Merry Christmas to you. It's good to have you here. My name is Joe Monahan. I'm the senior pastor here, and we want to welcome you to our church. We are really glad to have all of you with us. And if you've not been here before for this presentation, it is a real highlight. Last week we were able to celebrate the musical ministry of our choirs, and this week we get to celebrate with our bell choirs, and we are just always amazed by what they bring to the life of our church in so many different ways, and we are really grateful to have all of them with us today. And I thank all of you, many of you, I'm sure, friends, neighbors, and relatives of those who are playing today. We're really happy to have all of you with us, and so we welcome you. We wish you a Merry Christmas. I invite you to come and worship again with us on Christmas Eve at 5 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, or at 11 o'clock. Thanks for coming today.
Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on quite right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos. Staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find a way to keep Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake up bright and early, they'd rush for their toys, and then, oh the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise, 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 noise. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would start on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand bells in hand, and the Whos would start ringing. They'd ring and they'd sing, and they'd sing and they'd ring and ring. And the more the Grinch thought of the Who Christmas ring, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop the Christmas ring from coming, but how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up," and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house in the square, "This is stop number one," the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue. Where the little Who stockings all hung in a row, "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Near the milk and the cookies and the crackers of Graham was a stable with shepherds and one little lamb. Bearing gifts were the wise men who came from afar, being led to the Christ child by one radiant star. And with Jesus in the middle, so carefully placed, Grinch's thoughts and his memories surely raced. Then he, with a heart that's 2 sizes too small, paused for a moment in wonder and awe. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash, while that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this little Who daughter who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said,
Santa Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?
But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied, there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child, then he patted her head, and he got her a drink and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was Grinchishly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then all the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, and it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville, the Grinch popped his eyes, then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was ringing and singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast.
Okay, well, that's really the end of the show because in the program, don't trip here, the Grinch has let go, that's how we work that in, of his bad feelings and his bad thoughts. So he's come to realize that Jesus is really the reason for the season. That's the message that we want you to take with you. However, back in November, when we did a dinner theater program here, we did an arrangement of Over the Rainbow, if you know Iz from Hawaii. So it's his arrangement, and it was done for Bells. And we had such a good time doing it, we wanted to share it one more time. So I'm going to ask them to wish you Merry Christmas in Hawaiian and a blessed New Year. So. And we have a ukulele player too. Thank you. Stand up and turn around. Turn around so they can see you. Thank you. You've been a great audience. I just want to recognize a few people before Pastor Kathleen closes us in prayer. So just a few recognitions. First of all, to the singers, the ringers, all the instrumentalists who prepared the music. They worked really, really hard. This was a pretty ambitious program, but I hope they had some fun. I did. I have to thank my husband, who's somewhere. He didn't get to ring this one, who helps with the script. He makes sure that we can make things work. The slides, all the slides, he puts stuff together. I mean, you won't find pictures with the Grinch and the Nativity in the same shot. So just for his support and help with everything. And the video guys made the slides happen. So there are people in another room that made all those pictures come before your eyes. Of course, to Burton, who I stopped asking him if he wants to read, because I know he loves to do it. I think he does. But when he's not reading, he's picking up a check. Very valued, so thank you so much, Burton. And the people in Boker Hall are setting up a reception for you now, so if you want some goodies. If you don't know where Boker Hall is, there are children here in white shirts. Just follow them. They will get you to food, promise. Also to the pastors, our congregation, who are very supportive, so supportive of our music ministry programs here at Medford UMC. So we just appreciate that, and we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, a blessed New Year, and just, I guess I'll turn it over to Kathleen.
Barb, we have one more thank you. On behalf of our bell choirs, a donation has been made to A Future with Hope in your honor. We appreciate all the hard work you do in order to make this beautiful music all year long, and we would like to thank you. So we could...
If Maureen hadn't done it, I was going to do it. Barb, you are amazing. You are all amazing, and what an inspiration to everyone. How many of you are inspired to join this bell choir? Oh, my. Oh, my. Yeah, there was an invitation on the back that anybody can join. Yeah. So I think I'm inspired, but I don't know if I have time. But you did an awesome, awesome job, all of you, every single one of you, and thank you so much for that gift. You have shared a wonderful gift with all of us, so thank you. And now, may the love of God, the hope of Christ, the joy of the Spirit, and the love and fellowship of everyone just rest with you and abide with you in this season and in every day beyond. Amen.